In China, you hardly get any Indian food, but you do. There are restaurants which cater mainly to the expatriate Indians and the lonely Sri Lankans. But let me...
Gobi Manchurian, that hideous thing that is invented in India called Gobi Manchurian, that's cauliflower with a lot of chili sauce. And it's sold, and it's addictive. And there are some states which have actually made it illegal, banned it, saying it has nothing to do with Chinese food. But a quick question, if you don't mind. I thought we were talking about the brown man's burden, but we seem to be discussing China and Chinese food. Where's the empire striking back? At what? At China or at empire? Can we get back to the topic, please?
I've got a foodie
I would like to get back to the topic.
Thank you.
I think this is a very good opportunity to get back onto tapping or what?
There's something wrong with the technology.
It's probably Chinese.
Now we are getting, can we get back to the topic of the empire? Hundreds of applause.
So you're a star.
Okay, this is one area where the empire has really occupied the metropolis. In Britain, there is not a community that I can think of where there's no curry house or two in Britain. And in fact, a former High Commissioner here once told me that on a Friday night, when an Englishman is abroad for over a week, there's something he misses. That's a curry on Friday night. So this is how much the empire has occupied the metropolis.
Well, listen, I'm going to ask William about that.
So what we forget is how much of the cooking in this part of the world is the product of colonialism, not so much the British, but the Portuguese, because of course the chili pepper. And so much that we associate the tomato. All these things, the alu is brought in from outside. When James Kirkpatrick in My White Moguls arrives in Hyderabad, he introduces the alu and he gives it to the people at the court and they're amazed by it. But, interesting story, at the very earliest days of British East India Company trade in Surat in the 16th century, there's a fascinating book which I recommend to all of you by a guy called David Burton called The Raj at Table, and he makes the point that before the chili pepper had circulated around India in the 16th century, the Tudors used to eat very similar food to the Mughals. They liked fruity stews, and the largest import into Tudor England was currants from Greece to create the sort of fruity stew that you get in Kashmiri and Persian, like a Quraysh in Persia. And this is what northern India was eating too. So when the first merchants arrive in Surat, they say the food of India is very similar to our food at home. And the divergence, if you like, takes place subsequently as the chili takes root in India. It's a very interesting moment.
Thank you.
And then talking about Chinese food. I do have to get back to that.
Please.
In Sri Lanka, there are hundreds of Chinese restaurants. The joke is that there's not a single Chinese to be found in those restaurants. And then, of course, none of that Chinese food tastes anything like what you get in China. This is essentially Sri Lankan Chinese, or Chinglish, or whatever you wish to call it. Because the Chinese can't eat our Chinese food. But we love it because we have the spices, the chili in it. And we cook the Chinese food with spices.
So there are one or two joints where you can get Chinese food. And I have a very close friend who loves that food, and I will take you.
Okay.
Now I want to move on to a more serious topic, the sari.